Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we are back with some more Witchcrafters. I haven't played this deck in a hot second, but they did receive new support in Vice Madame, as well as their fusion spell. Now, notably, Konami is so horrible that they decided to make a just straight up polymerization, a UR. It's legitimately, it just says polymerize. But only Witchcrafters. The only thing that it does is during the end phase, you can add it back to hand. That's it. It's just got the Witchcrafter stipulation. It's just polymerization. It's not even Miracle Fusion. You can't banish from the grave. It's just poly. I don't understand. Now I know what you're saying. Why are we not just playing poly then, right? If we want to polymerize, why aren't we playing like polymerization? Two reasons. One, you still need to fuse, which means you need the materials. So it's still, like, not that great. And two, this is searchable. Polymerization technically also is searchable with, like, the Freyfer stuff, but then you also get a just useless material. Having, like, any of the edge imps don't really do anything for you. So, there's that. Whereas this is just actually searchable. Like, you can send it to the graveyard, it'll add itself back to the hand, and then you can use it on the following turn. Or you could actually search it off of something like Patronus, but then again, it's not on that turn. So it's technically searchable. But also, polymerization just isn't that good. Just, again, it's not really that good in this deck. It's not bad, but it's not great. So, there you go. Moving on, let's talk about the 60-card grass list for Witchcrafter that we have. We'll talk about Vice Madame when we get to the extra deck. So, we're playing a few hand traps, which is why we're not playing Reasoning. I'm not entirely sold on either. I've played the Reasoning version. It's not exceptional, but alas. So we're running a bunch of hand traps. Effect Veiler is probably the best one because it is a spellcaster, which triggers your Vice Madame, which is great. We're also playing Maxi, of course, and the Ash Blossom. As for the rest of our cards, we are playing triple Geni, Pittore, and Shmieta, as well as one Pottery for our normal summons. And yeah, we just kind of want to max out on these three because they're really good, and then Pottery is just terrible, so we're playing one of it. We're also playing Magician Souls, which is like a pseudo Witchcrafter. It kind of draws us cards. It's very nice to have. But it also gets the either Hain or Very into the graveyard, which pairs very well with Holiday. So we're also playing that one. Very nice. And then Fairy Tale Snow happens to be a spellcaster as well, which is very, very cool because you can actually use it as fusion material for the Madam, which is awesome. Also, it's Snow and in a 60-card grass list. As for the rest of the cards, we're also playing the two Hain and the two Very and one Aruru. That just seems to be right. You could probably cut one Hain, but you definitely need the two Vere, and then you don't need more than one Aruru. Aruru is basically a search target off of creation if you already have combo, basically. We have the Harpy's Feather Duster, the Foolish Burial, the 1-for-1. Pot of Desires is just good card. It's just draw two. You just draw two cards. It's crazy. Grass should probably be banned. We have the triple Creation, triple Holiday, the one Collaboration, the double Polymerization. It's just poly. The double triple Tactics Talents. That sounded really weird, but yeah, this card's really nice. If they like Ash you, you can basically either look at their hand and potentially get something, or you can just draw an additional two cards, which is also very nice. Also, going second, it's pretty nice as well, because you can be like, oh, I'm gonna yoink your monster after you dealt with my monster. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Prosby, also a ban-worthy card. This card's really cool. Just being able to see 6 deep is very nice. You can add something like Grass. You can add something like you can't add that one. Well, you could, but it wouldn't do anything. You can add a spell if you need it. Something like Feather Duster, Foolish Burial, Super Polymerization, etc., etc. Yeah, we have the Magician's Right Hand. We have a Restage. Honestly, this could be left hand to play around polymerization, Infip, but being able to negate like Dark Ruler, it's very nice. We have the By Street Scroll, double By Street, the one Scroll, the double Super Poly, the double Called By, one Draping, one Unveiling, and one Masterpiece, and then the two Patronus as well. You could play triple Unveiling. That's also an option, depending on how many, or like, yeah, it's just like a good card as well. It's a lot more of a brick than a lot of these other ones, though. Like Holiday, at the very least, if you can send a card to the graveyard, which there are a lot of options to do that, it gets a lot better. Creation is just a search, whereas this one's like, it kind of is a stipulation to also have a monster in your hand, which that's kind of the issue. So there you go. Moving on, we have ourselves the fusion, the super poly targets. So we have the Mud Dragon, we have Starving Venom Fusion, and the Dragus Pelia. We can also potentially fuse off with the Madame Vere, or sorry, the Vice Madame, if your opponent has like a spellcaster on their field. Kind of rare, but it is something that is possible technically. But yeah, then we have the double Vice Madame, which you can activate all of these effects in the same chain, but you can only activate one of these effects per turn. So, or sorry, only that effect once per turn. So basically, you can only destroy one card per turn, you can only special summon once per turn, and you can only add once per turn. However, you can do all of these all at once. And it's very similar to Titan, which means in the same chain, you're activating this. So you go Chainlink 1, Shmieta in the graveyard to send a card, Chainlink 2, Vice Madame. And then you can go Chainlink 3, activate a spell, like for example, I don't know, Unveiling to special summon. Chainlink 4, Vice Madame. That makes sense? And then you go like Chainlink 5, the Genny on your field to pitch a card, and then Chainlink 6, Vice Madame. Dope. I think you get it. We're playing the Assembled Nightingale and Zeus package along with Plan B. We're playing Link Karibo, Lina, Dark, Selene, Access Code, and the Underworld Goddess for our Link package, and that's it. So let's hop into the replays and show you how this deck performs. Alright, so here we are going first, and hey, look at that! Pot of Desires. Fantastic! We also drew Cockroach. Yay. So we're going to start off with the Foolish Burial to dump the Petore, and then we're going to go for the Pot of Desires in order to banish a whole bunch of cards, but more specifically draw cards. We're going to then activate the Petore and draw into Pottery. Fantastic. We're going to pitch the Patronus and then go for the Pottery into the Genny. We're then going to set the Called By and pass, adding back the Confusion. So basically at this point we can go like a Ruru to potentially bounce something if they target us, but more specifically we're just kind of like Maxi. Hopefully we don't die. Out comes the Swap Frog. Seeing the Swap Frog, we're going to activate Maxi. They allow it. Fantastic. I'm going to tag out here because I think they were trying to leave the main phase. We're going to go to the Shmieta. They're going to bounce their card back to hand and proceed to the end phase. Now, I know that they have an Imperm in hand, so we'll see how this goes. I draw into Patronus. Fantastic. We're going to activate the Genny here in order to fuse, and we're going to fuse off the monsters that we have into the Vice Madame. Vice Madame we're going to activate the Shmieta, which will then trigger the Vice Madame, which they will then infit. They could also have just, well, it didn't really matter. Anyway, we're going to activate the Patronus now in order to add back our fusion spell to the hand, and then we are going to go to battle, poke them for 27, and then set the Patronus and pass. Not really much more that we can do there, but we do get to add back our creation. I'm going to chain this because it's funny, and then pass the turn. It doesn't really do all that much, but if we do end up called buying a card, we can actually activate our Vice Madame because it's just a spell card or a non-fusion spellcaster. So very generic in terms of what it can actually, or what can actually activate it. So out comes the Swap Frog, and they dumped the Swap Frog, so we're going to call by the Swap Frog. We're going to activate Vice Madame to special summon. They will chain the Maxi, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Anyway, out comes they're going to get their Swap Frog negated. I'm going to tag out with the Petore in order to go into Vere, and then also pop with the Vice Madame, chaining it. At that point, my opponent concedes, realizing they have no 2s, and Splight is now turned off. So, good game. Oh, and if you were wondering, all of these games were played in Diamond 1. So here we are, going second against Grass! We also drew Cockroach, because of course we did. They're going to activate their Punk, activate the effect, grab up Foxy Tune, activate the Foxy Tune, to the which I will activate the Maxi. Do they have the response? No. Fantastic. Minigame achieved. Minigame win achieved. And seeing the Tackle Crusader, I'm very happy because that means that they're playing the Adamantipator bullshit. So, yay. We drew the Pot of Desires off of the Maxi, which is very funny. We're going to go for the Foolish Burial to dump the Petore, activate the Petore in order to grab a card. We're going to send Collaboration. Didn't really do anything. We drew the Ash Blossom, which is funny. We're going to then banish 10 and then go and draw into the Shmieta into Genny, then go for the Fusion Summon here. We're going to go for the Fusion Summon of Vice Madame. We are then going to activate the Shmieta in order to dump a card, which will then trigger the Vice Madame to add back or the fusion spell. Because we activated the fusion spell, it's not actually going to be added back by its own effect, so adding it back off of the Vice Madame is very nice. We're then going to trigger the Genny in order to special summon the Shmieta, which will then also allow us to grab up the Ruru due to us banishing the collaboration. We're then going to proceed to battle and punch over their field. They will then activate their monster effect, and then we'll go to main phase 2, end phase. In the end phase, collaboration triggers, which will also trigger our Vice Madame to pop a card, which is the one effect we hadn't utilized. So now their field is gone. We have 5 cards in hand, and I'm feeling pretty good. We also did activate Maxi, but yay, it's fine. We're just going to immediately, on the reveal of the Analyzer, special summon our Genny by banishing the Masterpiece, which we sent off of the Shmieta last turn. So we're going to go for the Genny here, which will trigger the Vice Madame, which will trigger the negation from them, which will trigger our Effect Veiler, which will trigger our Vice Madame, which will trigger our Shmieta, which it's not triggering, but which we'll then chain to that, which then also triggers our third effect of the Vice Madame. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, first things first, we're going to special summon out the Pittore, which will then special summon, and then we will special summon out the Hane off of the effect of our Shmieta, which we will then add back our collaboration off of the Vice Madame, which our Vice Madame will then be negated due to the effect of the Herald, which we will then utilize the first effect of our Genny in order to special summon the Vere. So now we have the Hane, the Pittore, and the Vere onto our side of the field, and we also get to negate the Kelbuck due to the Ash Blossom that we drew, and our opponent realizes the writing on the wall because their guy was also negated due to Effect Veiler. And that's the end of the game. Dear Lanta, that was fun chain. Alright, just remember, once again, this is 60 card versus 60. But more importantly, this was played in Diamond 1, okay? Remember that. Of course they drew the grass. Of course they drew the grass. Anyway, out comes the Jackalope. We miss it. Okay, they're playing BA. What? It's PK Fire, baby. Let's go. 60 card PK Fire. So they're going to activate, they're going to send the graph in order to boost, they're going to special summon out their other monster, then link into the Rusty Bardiche. Rusty Bardiche is then going to, they're going to bring back the Cherubini, then they're going to send the Rusty is going to then send, in order to set the Fogblade, they're going to activate the Fogblade in order to bring back a monster, then they're going to also bring back another monster due to the effect of their, the monster, and go into Dante. Dante effect, in order to mill, well, double called by. Hilarious. They're going to banish in order to grab up this guy. Then they're going to link to, now, notably, this card is not an effect monster. So, oops. So yeah, they're going to go into Verte, which will then trigger their, trigger their Dante in order to grab up their Seer. Out comes the DPE, because of course, and they pass. Alright, well, we have the super polymerization, so we're feeling pretty good. We draw the 1 for 1. We're going to activate Grass here. Okay. Sure, now they're on 5,000 life points. We milled a whole bunch of cards. Not too important. We're going to go for the Pot of Desires in order to grab up 2 cards. Or, 2 cards. We're going to go for we draw into Pittore, so we're going to send it as well. We're going to go for the 1 for 1, special summon out the Genny. Honestly, that's a bit of a mistake, but it doesn't really matter all that much. Because, we're then going to go for the Shmieta, and out comes Fogblade. Guess what? This is a quick effect. Also, on top of that, it plays around Skill Drain. Why? Because it tributes for cost, meaning the monster is not on the field to activate its effect, so we get a free special summon. This Skill Drain was the worst decision that they ever made. Also, now Fogblade sits on the field. Out comes the Hane, because it has the most attack points, and then we're going to go for the Shmieta. They're going to... Yeah. Connection failure. I promise. I want to show you the absolute mess that this deck list is, just so that you can appreciate with me. Huh? What? Huh? Alright, we're back with the deck, and honestly, Vice Madame is a absolutely just so good. It's just so good for this deck. However, the deck has other issues, and it's mostly getting into this card. If you can get this card onto the field, it's normally pretty advantageous, and you can normally trigger it multiple times. However, the problem is actually summoning it. Yes, I could play, again, more of this and more targets for it. That is an option. However, that also means that most of my other plays don't do anything. The biggest problem that this deck has is it loses to 1 or 2 interactions. An Ash Blossom entirely shuts it down. Drawing just like a dead hand, which is very likely, also just shuts you down. Drawing too many spells, drawing too many monsters, drawing not enough spells, not enough access to recursive spells like your Witchcrafter stuff. And like, yeah, you could just play like all Witchcrafters, and then you could always do your combo. But also then you would have nothing to interact with your opponent with, and nothing that could like break boards or stop them from like comboing turn 1 or what have you. This deck just, it has a Dark Lord problem, as I like to call it, where it's basically you need too many of the actual cards for it to be playable, right? You need too many of the named cards, and you do not have enough options outside of named cards to actually do anything. And the named cards don't do enough. Vere is great, fantastic. It has no protection. If you bait out the 1 negation, you can pretty much win the game. Hain, also a great card, however, has no real form of like disruption other than the targeted face-up card destruction, which is not exactly the greatest. So even the payoffs, not that great. Vice Madam is pretty good. Being able to summon this and trigger it without it missing timing is difficult, right? Because again, it's very similar to Titan. If they just chain something, like for example, you activate Shmieta, they activate, I don't know, DD Crow, or Maxi, or whatever it may be, even if it's not something that actually does anything, right? As long as it's something chainable, it turns off the Vice Madam, right? So, not exactly the most, like the best card, right? However, it does mean that you can activate it multiple times in chain, so it's like a give and take, right? Yeah, just like getting into it is nice. It adds a spell back to your hand, which gets around the biggest problem that a lot of the Witchcrafter spells have, which is that it's a hard once per turn for both of the effects, so you can only use one or the other. You can't use both, which is very sad because like the whole point is like, I need to bring back a monster or search a monster or fusion summon or something like that, and then also have this card in my hand to use the other effects. And it only adds itself on your end phase, which makes it so much more problematic. Like, if they legit just had a way to continually gain advantage, I mean, that's what Patronus is for, but it's a trap. If they had a way to actually, like, add back the cards at the end of every turn instead of just at your end phase, it'd be so much better. So, it's just like a core fundamental flaw where it's like, yeah, you can't really give them anything without breaking the deck or just changing it entirely. So, yeah, I still like the deck. It's very fun activating Vice Madam over and over and over again. I still like Witchcrafters and the way that they actually play the game, but it's very bad. And playing this in Diamond 1 was not exactly fun. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, a like is very much appreciated. And if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh!, then just be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.